All right, we're going to go and continue with the third and final statement. Let's see if I can get both of you to disagree. I'm not sure. All right, so the third one is around HR technology. Virtually every single job today is changing under the influence of technology, including HR. What started with databases and spreadsheets has grown into an entire ecosystem of interconnected systems and apps. From recruitment to exit interviews, technology is claiming its place in every HR process. And especially since the advent of generative AI, artificial intelligence is now knocking on the door. It is increasingly difficult to keep a clear view of the forest and the trees, let alone find your way easily between all the technologies and platforms. And what about the added value and return on investment of all those applications? How do we keep HR human when bits and bytes are taking over? Let me give you some more concrete examples of the latter. Automation over personalization. Automated processes such as resume screening, applicant tracking systems, and chatbots that answer employee questions may streamline tasks, but they lack the nuance and the empathy that human interaction provides. Data-driven decision-making. HR technology leans heavily on data analytics to make decisions about hiring, performance evaluations, and workforce management. And while data-driven insights can certainly be valuable, they can also overlook the human element and fail to account for individual circumstances, emotions, and non-quantifiable factors. All these elements combined, they lead to our final statement of today. HR technology takes the human out of HR practices, eliminating human interaction and empathy from the workplace. All right. I will start with you, Sophie. Do you vote yes or do you vote no?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Noah, what do you vote?
I'm going to vote no. I don't think so.
Oh, interesting. We have a disagreement.
We have a debate. Finally.
We have our first one.
This is awesome. All right, Sophie, please elaborate.
But I met a lot of HR people, and I think all of them are great people. They are very warm, very empathetic, very interested in people. They are great coaches and supporters. And very often nowadays, now I sound like a dinosaur, but they are also responsible in implementing a lot of technology. And sometimes I don't think, of course, today you need to implement some technology, but I don't think HR should be, like the IT department implementing loads of technology. I think the organizations I've seen when they do that versus the organizations I've seen when they've been more supportive, more like workshopping and having discussions and gathering feedback, one-to-one, meeting people. The organizations I've seen when they implement technology versus being very present I would go for being more present and being that supportive of the organizations rather than implementing technology. Does it make sense what I'm saying?
Yes, it makes sense. At least, to me, it made sense. Does it make sense to you as well, Noah? I saw you nodding, so I guess so. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I get where you're going.
Yeah.
All right.
Give an example. So, for instance, like I was getting some great support when we did Strength Finder with Gallup. We had a great process with that. We did it on the whole team. We were analyzing the result. We got to know each other a lot better. We got to work with each other a lot better. So it was not this implementing technology, but that kind of support we got from HR was brilliant. And then I've been working when HR been sitting behind the screens all day implementing an HR system. So I mean this level of support and what me and my team got out of HR was so much better when we were in contact and interacting a lot.
Yeah, I think that's basically a clear example indeed of where it did take the human out of it and eliminated that interaction. So thanks for adding the example, Sophie. Noah, yes, you said no, so let's hear it.
Yeah, so I have a different perspective. I think HR technology can actually add more humanity back into HR. I think HR practitioners are generally under-resourced. There's not enough team members or budget for what they need to do, especially now, previous to 10, 15, 20 years ago, where HR was responsible for like compliance and HR. Now we're responsible for like employee engagement, employer branding, recruitment, engagement, COVID, when that happened, remote work, all of these new things that have come under our plate. And so I think implementing the right technology actually frees up the HR and people teams to then have more interaction with people, because they can automate things that are normally very administrative and can take a lot of time to do, but don't have a huge impact on people. And so I think if you're implementing the technology in the right way, and whether that's the HR team implementing it themselves or an IT team implementing it on behalf of the HR team, I think HR technology can actually add more humanity back in, because it frees up the actual practitioners away from the administrative burden so that they can actually interact with the people that they're supposed to be serving, instead of, to Sophie's point, getting stuck behind a screen, just digging through data and doing administrative tasks and running benefits, like doing the things that have to be done. I think, AI is helping a lot with this, of automating these tasks. In the past, you'd run an engagement survey, and then the HR person would have to sit there for like 3 days, just combing through the data and finding the trends and looking at it all, and then writing up a report on it and doing all that stuff. Now you can run an engagement survey, use AI to pull out all the key trends from that engagement survey within 30 minutes to an hour. And then you have a final report in an hour and a half, whereas it would take you multiple days in the past. And so now that person can look through that report and go, I've got 2 days to now follow up on these key trends, set up meetings with people, and try and get additional insights from this survey. And so it creates more opportunity for the person to actually go out and talk to people, instead of us having to look at the numbers and the data and all of those things. And I think so HR technology can, if used correctly, is the asterisk here, can add more humanity back into the HR function by freeing up the HR team to actually have more interactions. And there's actually a really interesting stat that Gallup released after like reviewing a ton of their data in the workplace, is that I think it's 6 or 7 positive interactions. So that's the key number for people to trust and feel like their HR team is actually there to support them. They need to have 6 to 7 positive interactions with their HR team before there's like that full like coalescence between those two functions of like employee and HR. So doing whatever we can to increase the number of positive interactions between the HR team and their employees is highly critical in having a successful program and successful engagement and all those things.
Nice, Noah. I was actually thinking here, and this is also a little bit playing devil's advocate here, because of course we hear this sometimes, right? Like all this HR technology is not actually making HR more human, and then we also have the perspective of yes, it is actually making HR more human. I was wondering, was HR actually that human to begin with when the technology wasn't there, and when they were having to do so much administration and other kinds of tasks? I would like to hear your thoughts on that. Noah, I'll start with you for this one.
No, I think HR was traditionally very non-human. I think it was very closed off. It was very compliance and risk driven. And so it was a business function through and through. And I think we see this with all of the online conversation about HR, that like they're not on your side. They're only there to protect the business. If you have like a sexual assault case at work and go to HR, they're going to do everything they can to sweep it under the rug and just exit you out of the organization. I think that is changing. And I actually think HR technology is helping with that a little bit, because it is empowering HR people to be more than just compliance and administrative. It's allowing HR, like the CHROs and the CPOs in the world, to be at the same level as every other business function in the organization. And I think more organizations are realizing the power of empowering your HR and people function and elevating them to that same level.
Sophie, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it needs to be a debate, right? No, but I think, as I mentioned earlier, I really like the support of HR when you have dialogues and you're reasoning, should we do this and that, and you're kind of discussing things. So I think I've got that support in the from HR before, but I do see a trend where you expect a lot of IT implementation from HR. And I agree, technology could save, headcounts, save a lot of time, make the organization a lot more efficient. But I don't think necessarily HR should implement a lot of technology. So I develop an OKR platform, and there I talk to chief operating officers, or sometimes I talk to HR. And I think something like that, like goal setting in the organization, it could fall under HR or it could fall under a COO or a CEO or a CFO, a more like numbers driven person that also could implement this in the organization. And then I think HR, I think when it comes to a thing like company goal setting, should be supported by HR, but it should not be like driven by it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Noah, anything you'd like to add?
No, I think to Sophie's point of like, I think there's in the past few years there's been a bit of a like look at all the new shiny objects on the HR side of things. Like there's been a lot of HR tech that's been released, and I think a lot of HR tech stacks have become extremely bloated. And now people are confused of like, what tool do I go to for what? And there is the tool fatigue, right? Like you got a tool for performance management, you got a tool for your HRS, you got a tool for your ATS, you got a tool for your OKRs, you've got like employees are expected to go to 18 different tools to do 18 different things, and it can be exhausting. And so I think there is, and I think that we're seeing a little bit of like people are starting to trim down a little bit of like, oh, I don't think I actually need that. Or do I need as robust a system for that? Or can I just use the one that's already built into this thing? So I think we swung really hard one way, and we're starting to swing back a little bit in the other way of like, maybe we don't need all those new fancy tools. Maybe we only need a few. And I think like to Sophie's point, like the key is more interaction. Like the HR teams need to have lots of interaction to be as effective as they can. And I think the other part that we haven't talked about is there's been a lot of pressure from CEOs and founders and executives for the HR team to become more data driven. Because when we are bringing, we think we should be doing this, or this is something that we think would really help the organization, the one thing we are always told, where's the data? I want to see the data. Give me the data behind this. What's the ROI on this thing? Why should we invest in this? And so we've been forced to some extent to become more data driven, to rely more on technology, to push the services that we feel are important for the organizations. And so it's kind of a double-edged sword of where like we have to do this to do the programs we think are really effective. And by doing that, we're also taking away a little bit of our time with people by having to implement these technologies as well.
Yeah, that is a good point to add, actually, Noah, because obviously it's not just coming from HR because there's so much shiny technology that they feel like it could be useful. There's also, of course, the question, or perhaps sometimes the pressure, or both, to show the data for it. So that's a good one to add. Thank you very much for that. All right. I think that brings us to the end of this episode, to be honest. Thank you so much for your time, and thanks for participating. I mean, you may not have disagreed that much, but I do think there were still some interesting conversations that we had. So thank you very much, Noah and Sophie.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. It was great.
And thanks everybody for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to share it, of course, with your colleagues, with your friends, with whomever you think may find it an interesting episode. And then I will see you very soon for a new episode of HR Debatable. Bye.